Hey, what's up? D&C Performance back at the shop, and we're working on Chavo's C10, 85 C10. I got it up in the air right now and making a lot of progress. The motor was in last time, all cocked and leaned down. I now have the 4L80 in, and I kind of sort of a little bit of a butcher bracket, but I used his stock shift rod and the pivot that's on the stock shifter, like on the transmission, well, on this rod, but it's normally way over here, and then this is the pivot for it. So I made kind of a bracket to come off of the factory bracket, which I'll take back off, clean up with paint, but it works perfect. Torque converter's bolted in, cross members in. I got a drill because it was, I think, here, and we had to move back to here. Yeah, it was these two bolts here, so now we have to move back. I just have to drill those and bolt it in, but I got to get this side finished bolted, and there's two bolts that come from underneath that suck it up real tight, and then I'm gonna have to put like a plate under here to raise this side up. It's a hair. The whole truck right now on the lift is crooked, but it's a hair. The motor's just a teensy weensy bit crooked. It's not much. I mean, if any, in the camera you can't tell. It's hard for me to tell because the truck is kind of crooked on the lift because the arms are kind of stretched out. But the rest of what I got done was the exhaust to the shorties with the V-bands is all tacked back together, so it's tied in. The collectors have the bung for the O2, which I'm gonna run on the driver's side, so I positioned it so it's comes up in between the, well, you can't see nothing, comes up in between the cab and the frame so it won't bump into nothing. I also positioned this one so that it's the same, has plenty of room if I decide to do that. What else? All right, I'll let it down. I'll be right back. Okay, so now it's back on the ground. All the wiring stuff that was everywhere is still everywhere. But I got the battery tray made, bolted it in, set the battery in, put a little battery mount, which he didn't even have that. I got the reservoir, which is an old dirty one. I'm gonna try and kind of clean the inside of it somehow, but it fits. And then it's got the hose. I did pressurize the heater core, and it does leak, unfortunately, but it's Florida. We don't really need heat, so we're not going to bother with the heat. So what I did was, this is like a factory, like a Tahoe or a Yukon or Suburban, whatever. I took the plastic kind of cinch clamp that holds that Y for now, because the jug has an enormous hose on here, and then it's reduced down to two different size hoses here. So I looped it back because this is the correct size hose for the back heater core port, and this is a different size hose for the front. So I just looped it over to that one there. And I got the fans are in, radiators in on the rubber, the fans are in. Then I went ahead and I made a shroud to fill that gap and be able to, well, that was the shroud, it's in the last video, but I painted it black. But it's mounted with just some nuts behind it, and then these two holes worked out perfect. Instead of trying to come way out here, I ended up just cutting like a little relief, give it a little design. This hole matches this hole, so it's nice and even and painted, looks good. It's got handprints on it already for me because I'm greasy. Alternator's on, I put that on today, and then that's his engine cover that he took home and painted the same color as the truck, and then detailed the Vortec out personally, I think it looks really, really good. Um, so I think it would look, if we can get him a set of coil covers from like an Escalade or something, and he kind of matched with the same paint, it would clean up the sides of the engine. I think it would look like perfect. But I also got the Terminator X mounted. Again, I built aluminum bracket, bent it on the end over there, and you could just barely see the end of the bolt sticking through. So it's bolted in to that plate. The main harness, engine harness, is plugged in, goes in the fender, comes out of the fender, and then goes underneath all the AC stuff. Comes out and it's hidden back there. And then I shove the coils, plugs underneath. The two wires, you can see one is right there, says 2-cylinder head. It is on the cylinder head. But pretty much everything's plugged in on the engine main harness. So harness? Yeah, I don't know. I got the injector harness coming because this was for like an EV6 injectors, and these are the Multi-Tech. So that's on its way. I mounted the fuel pump relay and fuse right here on the fender. It comes off the harness right there, and that's the CAN bus for the monitor. But it comes off right there, and instead of like throwing them in there, I just bolted them together on the fender, so that way they're there, nice and tidy. Threw the battery wire for the ECU over, along with the tact signal wire, which will get strung back. Then I routed the main, that plug, which is the main power feed and ground, I routed it out front. And then see, I went in right there where the headlight harness comes out, and then I came out on this side where the headlight harness comes out. So it'll be clean right there. I'll get all the other wires cleaned up once I get everything in place, because the transmission harness still has power and ground on it. I got the throttle cable out. The new cable's on its way, so that this isn't bolted down, but because I have to put the cable, but it looks really, really good on there. What else? Yeah, no, I just got the rest of the stuff kind of moved aside where it needs to be. And then the shifter up here didn't have a cotter pin, so it had a piece of wire stuffed through, and then it was wrapped back around the shift rod. So I put a cotter pin in it. Power steering's hooked up. AC belt is on. Yeah. Waiting for the intake to come. Gonna use like a Tahoe style intake that comes with like the big 90, the 4-inch tube comes over and has the filter on it. And then I'll do the intake temp sensor right in the bottom of it. I'll pull this back or zip tie it to here, something, or maybe just stick it right here on the inside of the, probably what I'll do is stick it right there, and then it'll hold this out of the way. I gotta grab like a factory hose. Yeah, I mean, it's coming along, plugging away. But as soon as I get all the other parts here, then I can get the rest of the stuff done. I got a little bit more to take out, like some of the wires from the other gauges that were under the dash. I took the water temp gauge out. He doesn't need that anymore. So it's close. Oh, and he brought me some nice tubular upper and lower control arms. These are the upper, that's the lower package, and these are really, really nice. The crossbar on this thing is massive. So these should really, really, really improve the ride on this truck. It's all poly bushings, kind of a standard replacement ball joint, so they should be good. It should definitely help with the truck. We have to figure out the ride height. The back of the truck sank a little bit more, and if you kind of hop on it, it's pretty much hitting the frame. But I did find and lost already. Nope, there it is. I did find I had one of these laying around. This is one of those shackles that go sideways, whereas his factory one went this, and this was rounded for the axle tube. So I did find one of these. So I'm gonna get the other one off, get this one on there, that way that's all taken care of. But I'm gonna do that after I get the dry shaft situated, because light, I have to check the pinion angle. Once I get the drive shaft up and in there and kind of situated, I have to check the pinion angle. I believe it's going to be off a little bit, and we might need to use a wedge to roll the pinion down a little bit. And I think that was just a little bit of a goof when they did the axle over swap. He didn't do it. Somebody that he bought the truck from did it. And if I have to do that, then what I want to do is take and kind of C-notch the frame a little bit. I have some really gnarly 3-inch tube. It's probably 1/4 inch wall, maybe even 5/16 wall tube. It's actually pipe. So if I have the time, which it shouldn't really take long to do it, but what I want to do is cut the frame out the size of that tube over the axle so that the axle can sync up, because I personally really like this ride height where it's at. These are pretty decent size wheels. They're 22s, and it's tucked up in perfect. There's like plenty of room to slide your finger back and forth. It's got room above the tire, as far as I could tell. Definitely has room on the frame side. So I'd really like to get this ride height out of it. And now that the motor and transmission are in it, it's still on the lift a little bit, but we definitely would have to most likely cut the spring, maybe half a coil off the spring to get the front to drop, and kind of get the tire a little bit situated. I mean, this is not half bad right now. It's not sitting too bad. It has a hair of a squat to it. So once it's completely, yeah, I mean, it's got a little bit of a squat to it. So I would like to get the front down, maybe an inch, get the front down. So maybe like 1/4 of a coil or something, just to get it off, get the front down just a little bit. But that, to me, that's like such a good ride height. Hair lower in the front, not too much lower, because then he'll start rubbing the inner fender wells and all that stuff, which he kind of said just cut them out. But we'll try and avoid doing that. So yeah, I mean, for right now, I'm kind of at a point where I could pull the exhaust off, weld the exhaust, but I'm literally sitting here waiting for parts. Especially the Holley parts. So every time we order a Holley part, they give me a date, and then that date comes and goes, and it's a new date. So it's very hard. Not that it's their fault, but you know, it makes it really hard on us who order a lot of stuff to try and explain to people that their stuff didn't come. You know, they don't want to hear why. So waiting on stuff, but appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of new videos, and have a good day.